Damn.
Who loves old Nissans? Today, we are out here in the shop trying to figure out where the oil from this engine is coming from. Go figure, a 90s Nissan is leaking oil everywhere. I mean, there's oil clear back to the back of the trans. It's pretty well everywhere. So I'm looking underneath here. What I'm gonna do is clean it up because these oil leaks are more prominent when you're in full boost, you know, whatever that is in this car. It says 14, but I imagine it's something more like 11 pounds. But it's, you know, it makes a bunch more crankcase pressure when it's under a load like that. So the idea is I'm gonna clean this up and then take it for a rip and bring it straight back. No extra driving that I don't have to do. That way I can see exactly where this oil is coming from, because it's a bad enough leak now that when you go wide open, you can smell it. So we need to get this fixed. So for all of those of you that love old Nissans, here's our 1990Z. All right, so a half gallon of Purple Power and a half bottle of glass cleaner later. And yeah, we use glass cleaner out here because brake clean destroys this beautiful floor my father had put in. So use glass cleaner, works just as good. Engine's nice and clean. We'll be able to track an oil leak just fine with that, and it's cheaper. So anyway, next step is to let it dry for a couple minutes and then go take it for a rip. It's definitely PCV or pressure related. I know we replaced the oil pan gasket, but is what it is. So if it's a rear main, then it's a bigger job. If it's turbo outlets, I mean, it still sucks. You guys can see that stuff's packed in there. So this thing has been a project of mine and Dad's for quite some time now, and it has fought us every step of the way. I swear this thing's cursed, but we're on to it right now. We're working out the little kinks here and there, and it's working in our favor at this point finally. But we got this thing as a heap from the guy that we bought it off of. It was from Texas, but like the exhaust we've just been reusing. Like this pipe is just welded in on both sides, and you can see it's a total mess, and it leaks like crazy. There's this stuff going on and it's leaking, and you can hear it, you know, kind of like while it's running. So anyway, there's just stuff like that going on with it. So Dad's working through getting stuff for it as time goes on, because it's his car. I think this thing makes something around 300, maybe 300 plus at the wheels. I mean, it makes some decent power, and he's working through it, but he really enjoys it. He just likes to drive it, so, you know, there's no need to get too crazy with it, but he's making a nice car. So I think as time goes on, he'll keep working on it and putting some money into it. But right now, we're just trying to work through the annoying little issues that constantly cause us strife. So I think at this point I've talked long enough, and this thing is pretty well dry to go take a rip. So let's go for a drive. I guess I haven't really shown this engine in this thing since it was put back in, but there it is. That is a shoehorned 300ZX twin turbo VG30 DETT. That is a 3-liter quad cam twin turbo Nissan engine from the late 80s. So there you go. It's shoehorned in there, and as a matter of fact, we've actually deleted quite a bit of stuff, and that thing is still packed in there like that. It is not fun to get in and out of there, let me tell you. Yes, that moment when you don't have your GoPro, but you do have a rearview mirror and some tape. All right, so the goal here is to just go for a quick rip. But first I'm gonna drive it to get the oil warmed up a little bit, get it nice and thin so that it comes out of wherever it's coming from. It is a beautiful day for a drive in a car like this. So if we get the right exhaust on this thing, this car will just make all the right noises. All right, let's do it. I was about 130 at its peak. I smell the oil. We should be able to find this leak now. This car's so much fun. You can definitely tell it's got stock turbos. It falls on its face up top, you know, after like 6,200 RPMs up to about 72 where the rev limiter is. You can tell it's kind of falling on its face a little, but that mid-range torque, ooh, that's good stuff. And these Toyos on the back, they really grip really well, so it has a lot of trouble breaking the tires loose, which is what you want. So, but you know, if you rip it in first gear hard enough, it will. So these are like the perfect tire for this thing. All right, now that we're back, let's toss it up on the lift and I can burn the hell out of myself. See where this oil's coming from. We're back in here. Pop the hood. Let some of this heat out of here. I am sure she is cooking. Ooh, oh yeah. And there is a clue. Call the Harley boys. We have a clue. So we've got smoke coming out of there. Where from? I see some coming off of this turbo down here, so that's one sign. Let's get it up in the air and see where we find it coming from. There's got to be a trail. I mean, it's like it stings the nostrils. Oof! What do we have here? That's a significant leak. Okay, it's all over the place. It's everywhere. So, where is that coming from? Right out of the oil pan gasket. It's dry clear up there. Work our way back here, it's dry above that. It's coming right out of the oil pan gasket. All the turbo returns look dry, which is good, but right there, it's leaking everywhere. Changing an oil pan on this car is not fun because this part, I just call it a subframe, but some of the older school guys call it a K-member. The oil pan right here curves up and over that. There's not enough space above this thing to get the engine out. So what we got to do is find an engine cradle hoist deal that can go from fender to fender that is strong enough to hold on to this boat anchor, because this thing I think weighs almost 700 pounds, so that we can take the K-member out. So if we can hold the engine up, because the engine mounts to this thing as well, and then it's got 2 bolts on either side of the car that bolt it in. If we can get this out, then we can get the pan off pretty easily. So, gotta tell Dad we need to get an oil pan gasket, even though we just replaced it. I think we must have done something wrong right there. So, you live and you learn. I have to just figure out what we did wrong and get this brand new oil pan out of here. It's a brand new gasket and get it back up in there and resealed. So, we have found the leak, finally. Oh, yeah, there's some big old intercoolers for you, each side, keeping them side mount, staying true to the 90s. What's up? So, we'll get this thing fixed up. He loves to drive it. He drives it everywhere. So, we need to get this fixed sooner than later. So, with that being said, I learned some things on my turd biscuit. So let's go in here and talk about it real quick. So here she is. I'm about to start making progress on this thing. I bought a couple of small things for it. I got the engine right there. Oh, and spares if anybody needs a 300ZX engine. Both are blown. That one's blown less. Anyway, here's what I learned on this thing over the course of the last couple weeks. One thing is this bracket right here. Honda is very, very proud of that bracket. I get why they make the prices the way they do sometimes, because they're trying to hold on to old stock and some other factors that play into it. But this bracket right here to complete the bell housing on the engine side to bolt to the bottom of the transmission there, Honda wants $588 for this thing. That is very, very expensive for a bracket like that. Now you can go to a junkyard and probably find one. Well, I got on eBay and I found this one for $60. So ordered it up, put it on the car, and my bolts that I bought from the dealer fit in there perfectly, and everything is a-okay right there. So, and I may end up doing something completely different with this whole water neck altogether. So I kind of plan to have my intercooler be right here with water to air. So I don't know exactly what all I'm going to do there just yet, but this may completely go all together. which is fine. So just run the water out a different route or run it down under the intake and just get it away from certain things. This here, so this is a really cool setup, and I like the way that I was going to do it. I may do certain things like this, however, my last 2 wiring videos I think are going to be null. So I'm actually going to go back to the other style where the connector actually pops on there, because Braeden and I have the goal of taking these cars on quite a big adventure come next June. So I don't want to make my wiring harness where if I had a sensor fail that I would have to have pigtails, because that just means I'll have to take spare sensors for everything, depin them from the main connector and then repin them. But if I do it the other way, all I need is a 10mm and you know, just a new sensor at that point. So while this was going to be really cool, and I may still do something like this on another engine, this engine, it's a possibility that this thing, you know, sees sensor failures, you know, with all the heat that it'll experience and the amount of prolonged use. So this whole wiring thing is going to go back to the OE style where you have a plug and a receptacle. So bummer, but you know, glad I didn't make it too far just to change my mind. So I've only got like 6 sensors I have to change. Now granted, they're kind of expensive, but you know, that just means I'll have new ones in there, and that's not that big of a deal. So I did order the K-tuned block off plug for the heater. This is the heater's return to the engine. And then I already capped this. Well, I don't have the cap yet, but I threaded and tapped this, and that is something that I really hope people catch on to. I grabbed a hold of that pipe that sticks out of there, 'cause it's, you know, one of these styles, and just worked it out of there with a pair of channel locks and pliers. And then I bought the 20 by 1 mil tap and tapped it. Well, when you do that, you can buy one of these plugs off of B-Series. I know they're off of B-Series. I know they're common on other engines too. This is used all over Honda, but that thing will actually thread in there and cap that and make it completely watertight, so you don't have to worry about water leaks or anything there. And the crush washers never fail, so good to go there. But yeah, that's I got a couple other things. Oh, and an intake gasket. I got a Speed Factory intake gasket for it, so it'll have a nice thermal gasket in there. And I had pretty good luck with those, and I like the fact they're reusable. So pretty good stuff coming for this thing here soon. But yeah, this car, I miss driving this thing. It's been almost 2 years now, so I need to get that engine in there and get it put back together. So I'm working on it, trying. Got a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm trying to keep the content coming while I'm spending money on all this stuff. But right now it's the Fury and the other project I'm hinting at constantly, waiting on that to work out, and then getting this thing done. So hopefully we'll be going fast here soon. But again, the goal with this car is to put a bone stock K-Series in it. Humble Performance has been doing pretty good work with proving out stock K-Series to handle well over 600 horsepower. I want to make at least 600, but I don't want to be making the 650, 670 that those guys are making. So I'm going to take this bone stock engine, prove that it can do it, just taking it right out of the TSX, putting it right into my Civic. I'm not going to change the spark plugs. I really would like to try and prove that it can do it without changing the oil, because it's still got the oil that it came with in it, and I think that'd be pretty cool to do, but you get the idea. Stock K-Series, I want to make 600 plus, and then if, you know, we're on the dyno and, you know, we're having oil pressure issues or something, because I'll have monitors, sensors on, all of that. If we start having issues with that, I'll change out the sensors I'll change out the oil pump and take out the balance shafts and stuff, but for right now, stock K24 A2, EM1 Civic Si, 2005 CRV all-wheel drive driveline. I'm gonna throw it in that car. I wanna make 600 plus, take it to the track on those street tires and see how it does. That is the goal here. So I wanna run at least a 10. Humble's proven that 10s are no problem. So if I can go out and run a 10, that'd be great. For now, thanks for listening to me ramble. I appreciate it, guys. Stay tuned, there's more coming.